Mirrors are one of cinema's oldest tools, used to show depth, to double identity, to fracture truth. We accept what they show without question, because we assume they're neutral. But what happens when the mirror stops reflecting and starts behaving differently? In certain films, something strange occurs. You watch closely, and suddenly the reflection doesn't match. It moves ahead, it delays, it reveals someone or something that shouldn't be there. These aren't bloopers, they're not visible errors. They're moments that live in the edge of the frame, never explained, often denied, and sometimes quietly erased in later releases. What makes these scenes unforgettable isn't just the visual oddity, it's the silence around them, the lack of commentary, the versions that no longer include them. It's as if the mirror revealed something not even the filmmakers were ready to face. Some believe they're hints, others call them accidents. But what if these moments weren't either? What if the camera accidentally caught something real just once, and the mirror was the only thing honest enough to reflect it? Tonight, we're not just looking at cinematic technique. We're examining 15 instances where the mirror broke formation, where reflections defied reality, and where silence said everything. These are the moments where what you saw in the mirror wasn't what was filmed on set, where something else stood behind the glass and no one involved in the movie wanted to explain what it was. This is what happens when the reflection doesn't align, when the mirror reveals not what's there, but what shouldn't be. Hasson, Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me, 1992. The most honest scene in the film was told through glass. Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me is dense, abstract, and painful. But in one iconic moment, its message is stripped of metaphor and made literal. Laura looks into the mirror. Her father stands behind her, but the reflection doesn't lie. It shows B.O.B. No sound cues, no build-up, just an unflinching shot of the truth the story won't say aloud. It isn't an error. It isn't hidden. It's deliberate. It's devastating, because in that moment, the mirror becomes the only character willing to show what's actually happening. And what it reveals changes everything. Dve, Annihilation 2018. The mirror doesn't distort you. It translates you. Annihilation lives inside mutation. Characters twist, memories blur, environments rewrite themselves, and the mirror, a supposedly neutral surface, becomes the first to fracture. Lena examines herself in a mirror, but something's wrong. The angles curve unnaturally. Her movement delays or repeats or warps subtly around the edges. The frame pulses, almost like breathing. The camera doesn't call attention to it. The narrative moves on. But for a brief moment, we see not just Lena, but a version of her, already altered. She doesn't react, but the mirror does. Was it reflecting her form, or the shimmer's impression of it? #3, Stoker, 2013. When your reflection moves first, maybe it's not a reflection anymore. Stoker is a film about transition, suppressed emotion, a quiet inheritance of violence. India's transformation unfolds in silence until a mirror signals it before she ever does. At her vanity, brushing her hair, she stares blankly ahead, but her reflection doesn't wait. The eyes lift slightly too soon. The lips curl into something close to a smile before her face follows. It's delicate, barely there, but it lands like a threat. There's no score, no camera push, no cinematic emphasis, just a subtle betrayal of synchronicity. And it's more than eerie, it's suggestive. Suggestive that the girl we followed is no longer the one in the mirror. #4, Enemy, 2013. When your reflection stares before you arrive, something else is in control. Denis Villeneuve's Enemy is a spiral of uncertainty. Identity is fluid, doubles appear and vanish. But one mirror scene stands alone in its quiet brutality. As the character passes by, the mirror doesn't show his back, it shows his face, unmoving, neutral, as if it had been watching, waiting, long before he entered the frame. It's a violation of physics, of space, of expectation, and it's never explained. Was it metaphor? Was it mistake? Or was the mirror simply revealing who had really been in that room all along? 5. Poltergeist 1982. Sometimes, the mirror doesn't reflect chaos. It reflects hesitation. Poltergeist is known for its explosive supernatural sequences, but in a quiet moment alone in the bathroom, Steve Freeling looks into a mirror and something doesn't line up. He leans forward, splashes water, looks up, but the reflection doesn't match his rhythm. It's slower, late by a second, a lag you only notice if you're paying attention. In certain prints, that moment's been corrected. In others, it remains. No commentary. No behind-the-scenes clarification. So what was the mirror waiting for? And more importantly, what did it see that the rest of us missed? #6. It Follows, 2014. In this story, what's coming never stops. But the mirror might have seen it first. It Follows uses minimalism to maximum effect. The dread builds not from speed, but from inevitability. Yet there's a moment with a mirror that suggests something already arrived. Jay stands in front of her bedroom mirror. Everything is still, but her reflection isn't exact. It tilts slightly before she does. A blink that comes too early, a posture that doesn't align. It's small, silent, wrong. Some viewers have debated whether it's a continuity issue, but others argue that in a film so controlled, so rhythmically perfect, nothing slips by accident. What if the reflection wasn't showing Jay anymore, but what she was about to become? #7. Coherence, 2013. The mirror doesn't reveal who you are. It reveals which version of you made it into this room. Coherence is about fractured realities, dinner party guests caught in a tangle of overlapping timelines. Clues are scattered in details, and one of the most unnerving clues is a mirror. M enters a hallway, momentarily catching herself in the glass. But the posture's wrong. The tilt of the head doesn't match. She moves away, but the reflection stays just long enough to raise a question. No music, no emphasis, just a quiet fracture in space. Was that really M's reflection? Or did another version of her arrive here first? In a film where identity splinters, the mirror doesn't just confirm who you are, it dares you to prove it. #8. The Shining, 1980. In Kubrick's universe, nothing is left to chance. So when the mirror breaks form, you should pay attention. The Shining is visual precision incarnate. Every angle, every hallway, every symmetry is deliberate. So in the red bathroom scene, when reflections begin to desync, it matters. As Jack speaks with Grady, their reflections blur, mouths move out of rhythm, gestures don't match. The mirror feels detached, like it's playing a different version of the conversation. It's not a mistake, it's not a sloppy angle, it's intentional. Because in the Overlook Hotel, the rules of space and time bend. And the mirror is where those rules fail first. What better place for the truth to leak through than the one surface meant to reflect it? #9. Hereditary, 2018. The scariest part wasn't what stood in front of the mirror, but what refused to leave it. Ari Aster's Hereditary is packed with quiet dread, grief, silence, and unseen forces waiting in corners. But one of its most disturbing moments is barely noticeable. It doesn't scream, it just watches. Peter stands before a mirror, drained and hollow. The shot lingers, he blinks, but the reflection doesn't. His mirrored self stares back still, cold, disconnected. When he moves, it follows, but late, just enough to feel wrong. What's unsettling isn't just the delay, it's the disconnect. The sense that the reflection isn't Peter anymore, but something that's been waiting to take his place. Nothing in the production notes addresses it. It's never mentioned. But viewers who notice it don't forget. Because when your reflection lags behind, maybe it's not yours anymore. 10. Fight Club, 1999. Sometimes, the mirror breaks the secret before the film does. Fight Club is about fragmentation, psychological, emotional, narrative. So it's no surprise that a mirror might betray the story before the script does. In one hotel bathroom scene, the narrator looks into the mirror. Tyler is behind him, but their reflections don't behave. In one shot, the mirror shows both faces, but the angle makes no sense. In another, the timing of movement doesn't align. The moment is subtle, buried beneath dialogue. But it's there. And in hindsight, it's an early confession, one the film makes silently, through glass. Before the twist, before the reveal, the mirror had already told the truth. 11. Candyman, 1992. Before the summoning, there was already something inside the glass. Candyman built its legend on reflection. Say his name into the mirror, and he appears. But long before the ritual begins, the mirror in this story acts strangely on its own. Helen glances toward it in a routine moment. No tension, no horror yet. But her reflection isn't quite in sync. Her movement happens out of order. A blink that comes too early. A motion that doesn't match her. It's fast, too fast to catch on first viewing. But slow it down, and the rhythm is off. Was it intentional foreshadowing, or was something already in the mirror watching, waiting? When a story warns you not to trust the reflection, maybe it's already too late. Hasson 2, The Others, 2001. A mirror that lingers longer than it should is never just a mirror. The Others is all about quiet unease, glimpses in shadow, footsteps with no source, questions without answers. But one scene contains a visual break that many viewers can't forget once they notice. Grace walks through a dim hallway. A mirror stands against the wall. As she passes, her reflection seems to pause just briefly, after her body has already moved on. It's not dramatic, there's no sound cue, but the delay is wrong, and stranger still, the moment doesn't appear in every copy of the film. In some home releases, it's gone, replaced, edited clean. There was no announcement, no restoration note, just quiet removal. So what did the mirror show in that split second? And why did someone decide it was too much? 13. Black Swan 2010. It's not paranoia if the reflection moves first. Black Swan is a descent into obsession, identity, and hallucination. Mirrors appear constantly, reflecting both perfection and fracture. But one moment stands out, not for its style, but for its disobedience. As Nina applies makeup before a performance, her eyes lift toward the mirror, but her reflection gets there first. It anticipates the motion, a half second ahead, a minor slip, or something far more unsettling. There's no mention of the moment in commentary, no notes in production breakdowns. It simply happens, and it changes how we see the scene. Was it a technical error? A lucky edit? Or was the mirror showing us what Nina was becoming before she knew it herself? Ten oculus decoding. The mirror doesn't always reflect you. Sometimes it watches you. In Oculus, the horror comes from uncertainty. The mirror at the center of the story manipulates memory and reality, making both characters and viewers question what's real. But in one specific scene, it seems to step outside the narrative and interfere with the camera itself. During a confrontation, the two siblings face the mirror. They speak, they move, but for a moment, their reflections don't. There's a delay, almost imperceptible, but not quite. The reflections are late. Some versions of the film no longer show this lag, others do. There's no word from the filmmakers about what caused it, or why it only appears in certain format. Maybe the mirror in Oculus doesn't just affect characters. Maybe it reached beyond the story into the footage itself. And if the mirror has its own timing, who's really directing the scene? Hasson 5. The Sixth Sense. 1999. Sometimes, the thing in the mirror isn't part of the story, but it's still there. The Sixth Sense is remembered for its quiet, emotional weight and its now famous twist. But sharp-eyed viewers have pointed out a subtle moment that's never been addressed, one that feels out of place even in a film about ghosts. In a quiet hallway scene, Cole pauses in front of a mirror. He stands motionless, but in the glass, something flickers behind him. It doesn't move like a person. It doesn't match the rhythm of the scene. It's just there for a blink. Then it's gone. Oddly enough, that flicker doesn't appear in all versions. Some digital editions have cleaned it up, removed it, with no acknowledgement, no explanation. Was it a crew member in the wrong place? A visual accident that passed through editing? Or was it left in deliberately, a secret for those watching closely? And if it was accidental, why was it later erased? Bonus fact: Eyes Without a Face, 1960. There's a version of this film where the mirror shows something that doesn't belong. Eyes Without a Face is often remembered for its poetic horror, haunting, minimal, and unnervingly quiet. But in some lesser-known prints, a single mirror shot has sparked decades of speculation. Christiane glides down a hallway. A grand mirror reflects her passage, but in one early European release, the reflection doesn't align. A second figure, tall, shadowed, anonymous, appears just behind her, standing still, not in the room, only in the glass. This detail has never been included in restored versions. It's not in Criterion, not in Blu-ray cuts, but it shows up in certain bootleg VHS transfers, and grainy screenshots have been passed around like urban legend. Was it a production accident? A forgotten crew member? A visual ghost? No one involved has ever acknowledged it, and that silence has only deepened the mystery. Maybe it was an error, or maybe, just once, the mirror captured something real, something no one was meant to see. Mirrors are meant to confirm reality, to reassure us that what we see is what exists. But in these films, they don't. They pause. They predict. They show things that have no place in the scene. 15 moments where the glass stopped obeying, where it lagged, shifted, or exposed something the frame wasn't ready to reveal. And in some cases, those moments were erased, scrubbed quietly from future releases, as if admitting they ever happened would break the spell. Maybe these were technical accidents. Maybe they were narrative hints. Or maybe, just maybe, the mirror became a window, and for a few frames, something looked back. So now the question is yours. Which reflection stayed with you the longest? Which one didn't feel like a mistake? And have you ever paused a movie, and noticed the mirror doing something it shouldn't? Let us know in the comments. If you want more stories hidden beneath the surface of cinema, subscribe to Darkroom Cinema. We don't just review films, we look for what escaped through the cracks. Because sometimes, the most disturbing thing on screen is what no one admits they saw.